Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to my show, William Wallace for America. With me today is State Representative Rhonda Butler. Representative Butler, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Good morning. I'm finally so excited to be here with you. We've been trying to do this for 3 years, and I blame myself. I blame me for all of.
Well, you don't have to blame yourself. From what I understand, which is also going to be reflected in some of your legislation, is you've got a lot going on at home, and you're a caregiver that's been taking care of a lot of people. So you've got not only the best reasoning, but because you spend the rest of your time taking care of everybody in the state as a representative. And I've watched some of your legislation, and not only do I appreciate it, but I also know that a lot of it comes from your heart, and I think that can be a great way to represent the people of your district. So
You know,
go ahead.
I love the people of my district. I do. I do.
Where is your district anyway?
So District 38 takes in all of Evangeline Parish, and it takes in northern St. Landry Parish. So we did some redistricting, remember?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that moved me. Yeah, that moved me out of St. Landry Parish. I kept, of course, Evangeline Parish where I live, and I moved into Southern Rapids. So they don't know me. They're getting to know me, and I'm letting them know that I'm gonna do the same thing I did for St. Landry Parish. If you're my district, I'm gonna fight for you, and I'm gonna have the heart for you, and do everything I can to make, everything better for you in that area where you live.
But when people see some of your past legislation, I think they'll get a good idea of who you are. And then when they hear today about some of your future legislation coming up, I think they're going to get an even better idea, on who you are. Well, let's talk about some of your major bills last session that were, I think, really important examples of your some of the highlights, we'll say.
Well, one of them right before the ending of last year was the dental bill, if you remember that, for special needs children.
Mhm.
And it was, of course, near and dear to my heart because I have a special needs child. But what we learned working with the dental task force and with LSU of Baton Rouge, because they have a big dental program there, was that we have children that were dying from teeth issues or losing a lung or limbs due to bacteria. And because we didn't have a
Right.
dental care in place after the age of 21, it was so sad to me. It felt inhumane. And I was like, we have to fix this. We have to do something. So I met with the dental task force. They had done so much work. They had not found anyone to work with them to work on a bill like this. And it was a lot to do. There was a lot of background things that we
Yeah.
had to get funding, and we had to look at what that was going to cost, and we had to find out what was that community that we wanted to tackle first, and it was the waiver program. And so that's where we kind of got the numbers we needed, but it was phenomenal. Then last year we ended up rallying in the in-care facility, the children there, because what we found was within the per diem that comes down to care for these children, their dental care was involved in that, and it should not be. They should have a separate plan by themselves, right? To take care of that. It shouldn't be part of caretaking. It should be a program outside itself. And so it was amazing. We have so many dentists have been calling me, so many people, and it's funny, it lands in these dental magazines, and people recognize me, and I forget, that that's what happened, and I'm not even aware it's in there, but they just send me letters all the time of how much progress they've done since that bill has been in place. And I think the numbers were close to 3 million we could probably save in our state by doing preventative care. Isn't a year?
So is
That's
this
just amazing to me that someone didn't come up with that before now.
so
Preventative care. I own a business, so we do all kind of preventative care.
your legislation helps save the state $3 million just by shifting where the care came from and where it was directed.
Right, because what happened was is if you child didn't have dental care, right? If they got a bad, some of them ended up with abscessed teeth. The bacteria caused lung issues, so many issues. They landed in ER. Well, before we get to ER and spend $300,000 in
Right.
Medicaid or $1 million one child on a lung, can you imagine? Why don't we do preventative care for $200 a child a year and get dental checkups along the way and fill a cavity or whatever we have to do instead of
Right.
waiting until we. Right, right. And that's where the savings came. That's where the savings. We actually had Alabama and Texas reach out to us about the model that we did here in Louisiana.
Wait,
They're
you
wanting
mean
to
other states?
model that. So
So
that's
other states
amazing
came to us
to me.
for guidance for a change.
Right,
Because
right. First
that's
time.
that other states
So it was the
come to
first
us
time in
for,
history anyone's ever done that.
and this is all
I know
because
that's
you.
what I said. I was so excited. I was so excited about
This is exciting when you can
Yeah,
show
yeah. And
people
we
at state how to lead.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
other
And
little
we're working on our budget, right? We're always working on.
Is
Right,
there any
right.
other
And
legislation
I'll
that
let
you
my
had last
colleagues know
year?
that. Well, I had that ESA bill was very important to me. There was a lot of ESA bills that came, and that was your education scholarship or savings account. I think it's kind of shifted to scholarship account now. They're kind of calling it throughout the United States. So many states are passing these bills where they're allowing the parents' tax dollars to follow their child, right? Because every child deserves the right to an education. I was in a meeting last week, and we're like we're almost in the top ranking for the worst education in the country. That's sad to hear. That
It
children
is.
can't read. That children cannot read by the third grade. That's horrible. What are we doing wrong? And so we felt like, okay, we need to model what the other states are doing. They're moving these ESA bills in where parents can listen. Sometimes what a lot of people get misguided by this is that it's going to crush our public school system. They're allowed to move to another public school, and the federal dollars still stay in that school. This is just your state dollars that are moving to different schools. Okay. So if it's a private school, if it's tutoring at home, you have children with health reasons that can't attend school. Why can't we educate those kids if they have the ability to learn and be a productive human being? Why don't we do that? Why aren't we offering that help? Right. If you have a child that's ADHD, I have a nephew that was ADHD. He fell between the cracks, but us as a family pulled together, got the tutoring he needed, but not everybody has that support
Exactly.
system. No, I mean,
And
it's not good.
so these ESAs, as we all know, well, most of us in the know knows, but we're trying to make it more popular so where the rest of the public can get on board with this. With the ESA bill, the money follows a child. So you're saying the
Right.
federal dollars still stay within the designated districts, to simplify it, but on a state level, the money follows the
Yeah.
child where they want to go. Do I have that right? And does that also mean that,
Right.
let's say that
Right. Right.
let's just
Exactly.
say in the case of somebody with special needs, and they're in a district where maybe there's not a school that can take care of that child's specific needs, that child, the parent of that child is able to move that child to
Right.
maybe another school that has a program for that special needs child, if that's the right way to say it. Is it the right way to
That's
say it?
correct. And not only that, that's exactly the way to say it. And they were concerned about private school. They get upset when they think those state dollars are going to go to. Listen, the kids in those schools, they're not getting it anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's going to where
Right.
they're paying still tax dollars for their child to go to a public school, and they're paying for a private school. I'm
You know,
paying for school taxes right now. My husband, and we don't have children in school. So, that child should be allowed to be educated. That parent should be allowed to educate that child. Not only that, environment. Think about environment. Some children don't have the environment that other kids have in schools. There's some bad cities out there. These kids are attending school or can't crime. You know that, and I know that. It's
yeah.
horrible. So why not allow your child? Some may never even be able to use it, William, because they just can't drive them to another school or drive. But we should give them the ability to do that. That's all
Right.
we're saying. Give them, if you can do it, give them the ability. Not everybody's going to be able to use the bill, but if you can, we should allow them to do it. Definitely.
Well, not just the ability, but I think when these bills become more popularly known, when
Mhm.
when more parents are aware of this, then you have communities saying, "Hey, the school in our community is not good." Maybe you have 10 or 12 parents that might carpool their kids.
Right.
Start working on carpools to work, because now they're aware of it. They work together, and it builds not only the ability to be able to get a better school and to force your school to be better, but it builds community. It builds a sense of community with other parents. But this is no
Right.
different than a business. I mean, schooling is no different than a business. If a business is not providing services, people don't go to it. And if the business down the street is providing better services, you want to be able to take your dollar and spend it someplace else. That's freedom. So not
That's
if we if
investment. That's investment into our children, our future. That's what that is. It's your money that you're putting in the state that you want to invest in your child. You should be able to do that without a doubt. You're going to see more Christian schools, I think, too, which I'm supportive of any education. If you can educate that child, we should allow that to happen, right? And we have
exactly.
mothers now that are opening Christian schools within their churches that are getting certified and teaching their kids. Like I have one special needs mom that has a very severe disabled child, and she can't go to school and she doesn't have the ability to learn, but she has two more children. And it's for her to juggle that is hard. And one of them's
Right.
dyslexic. So she's like, what do I do? I said, you homeschool your children. You don't work, you can do that. And you should be able to use that funding to do that because of the situation you're in. So I'm praying that it did get vetoed, by the way. I think you know that it got vetoed
Yeah,
a few times.
exactly.
I was
That
so
was
disappointed.
which I
So
don't know
disappointed.
why it get vetoed. I mean, if you're for education and you're for freedom and you're for parents' rights, this bill addresses all of that. It addresses the freedom to educate your child. It promotes good grades. It promotes good schools because competition is basically it's like I said, no different than a business. If
We are
you're
last in education. We are last in it. You
We
should
only have
never.
one way to go. When you're at the bottom, you only have one way to go. It's like you can try anything and still get better when you're at the bottom of education. I do. It does have a question that comes to mind of when on these ESA bills where they say the money follows the child. What if a parent decides to homeschool their child? Are they going to get a refund or a check or some sort of a tax break back from the state? If the money follows the child, like to go from one school to another school in these types of bills, can that parent then get a check if they're homeschooling?
I think that, okay, so the money it goes into a funding within the state. Okay, so whoever the tutor is gets paid through that funding. And because of that, we looked at other ESA bills in other states and there was fraud. So we had to protect ourselves against that. There's always that
Yeah,
issue.
exactly.
So, right. So we had to put it in an account within the state so that funding sits there and it's prorated. So if your child would start in the middle of the year or whatever, it's prorated so that they could use that funding, but it is paid directly to the tutor. Okay, it's paid through the state to the tutor, and they are able to use that as a tax credit. They are at the end of the year.
I'm going to connect this back to freedom and our Constitution and our 10th Amendment rights. Because we have a 10th Amendment, states can do what they want to do, which works better for them and their community and their
Right.
budgets and their taxes. And when other states have tried this same bill in other places, what the benefit of that 10th Amendment and our Constitution and that freedom is that we can look at other states and say, hey, this has worked in this state. They have a budget similar to ours. They have policies similar to ours, or maybe they're different. What hasn't worked, like you said, you can point to the fraud that's happened in other states and say, hey, this didn't work. Now we're at the bottom. We can look to other states that have done well with this, and we can formulate something in our state that will work to improve our state and its freedom. I love it.
Yeah.
You're doing great. Is there so one question before we talk about the future, this next session coming up? Because I know you got a good bill that you want to talk about. Which is there anything else? Is there any other legislation in the last year that you want to point to?
Well, the ESA bill is coming back. I'm not
Okay.
going to take a veto. Oh, it's coming back, and it's
Oh,
coming
I love it.
back
I love it.
stronger. So I traveled to Florida and I met with Governor DeSantis's team, his educational team there, and Arkansas's team was there with us. There was a guy there they all had ESA bills, and they just reaffirmed that they could not believe that my bill was vetoed and that they have the bill in Arkansas and in Florida, and it works for them. It has not collapsed their public school system. So that reassured me. We came back, we worked on the bill some more. It's back in there. So I'm very excited about it. And being from a rural community, one thing my platform was when I ran 4 years ago, I can't even believe it's been almost 4 years. I'm back there again, but was that I wanted to make sure my people knew who I was and what were their needs. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about me being a state representative. It was about me serving them. And so that was the platform. I'm going to meet with my leader. I had 9 municipalities. What are your needs? And 90% of it was water, infrastructure, and sewer always, so we did unbelievable. I think 30 million already in water and infrastructure and roads in 3 years, and not counting the 30 million, that we brought down through the federal government for them. So District 38 has done well, and we've worked really hard. And going forward, that's what I want to do. So I have a bill coming out. It's called a revolving loan bill. My chairmans have met with me and have seeded that bill for me. And what it does is that your municipalities of 15,000 people or less, it's like a capital outlay with no match is basically what it is. So you can borrow from this loan at 1% interest for 20 years. You have to have good standing. Your city has to be in good standing. And you can file this through the Bonds Commission, the application, file for that loan. You have 20 years to pay it back, and the loan refunds itself with the interest. So I never have to come back to the state and ask for more money. It's a one-time investment, and I am very excited about this bill. Everybody's kind of excited about this bill for my rural communities.
Representative, I want to point something out real quick. You've got the passion. We've talked about what's in your heart. You've got passion to fix problems in our state, but you also have numbers and examples to back up. Like you're going to the state fighting for your district and your state and our state, but you're not just going with an idea. You're going with the facts and the results from other states to back it up. And when you
Right.
can bring what you're bringing here and the numbers to back it up, and you can point to other states like you're doing, say this has worked and why. There's no reason why it should be vetoed, on this one. So this loan legislation you're talking about, I'm gonna call it loan legislation for short, is a separate bill from the ESA bill,
Right.
right? So
Right. It's coming this year.
you
I
got one,
actually filed it last year, and my husband got ill. My husband
right?
got ill last year. So I pulled the bill back because, it's all in God's timing. And I laughed about the whole situation because I had someone bring the bill in committee and they got the bill out, but I watched the video. I watched the whole thing, and I was not pleased with how it rolled out. I felt like there's some more work that we could do. So I pulled the bill and I said, it's all in God's timing. And this year I got a group of team people together to look at the bill, and they made it even better. I mean, they just made it better. They added things like, we need to make sure that your towns are in good standing. Maybe we need to bring it down to a smaller population because your
Right?
bigger cities have matching funds, right?
Exactly.
Listen, my little town of Melville, Louisiana, and St. Landry Parish don't have money. Palmetto. So this would be amazing for them. I also put emergency clause outside of session up to 50,000. If you had an emergency, you could go in when I'm not in session and get some of that money for your needs. And so my towns are very excited about that. They don't have a match. So I think this is going to be great. I actually I had someone mentor me through this bill, and there's a area in Georgia that did something like this. So I modeled it kind of off of that for Louisiana for us. And my chairman and him got behind me and helped me just bring it to the post. It's really good. I'm excited about it.
This is exciting because, like I said, not only have you had the heart, the passion, and the facts, but you've put together a team to
Yeah.
be able to get this legislation through. Because, like you said, a lot of these little small towns don't have the backing, they don't have the tax revenue, and if they've got a road that's out, a bridge that's out, this gives them a chance to be able to get it done instead of having to wait 20 years to be able to get it, to pay for it, to get it done. They can do it now and pay for it over 20 years. And then it sounds like the state is actually going to make a little bit of money off of the loan too, if you said 1%.
Well, it's going to refund the fund. So the 1% interest goes back into the fund. So we just keep gaining money, and we only have to seed it one time. It just needs a one-time investment. After that, the fund just keeps growing. And so they're going to put quite a substantial amount in there to start us off. So we're excited. And our rural communities deserve good water. They deserve a good quality of life, right? Just like your bigger cities. And my small businesses here are the backbone of my small towns. These taxes I own a business. I employ 18 people in Turkey Creek, Louisiana. And listen, I deserve good water, right?
Right.
And so does Melville, so does Palmetto, so does Chaitanya, all my little towns. And they're so excited about this. It gives them an opportunity where we can compete in rural America and have a good quality of life here too. And we need to offer them this. They deserve it.
I love this. And the 1%, and now that I say that, now that you, the way you
It's
word it,
interest.
the interest that they pay back is actually not a way for the state to make money, but it's a way for the state to pay it forward to
Right.
everybody. It's a great way for the little towns to be a part of the state in such a way that they're paying it forward, and it helps our state improve on a community basis. Representative, this is perfect. This is what I always say. The best way to fix our country is to work in our communities in our state. And that's exactly what this idea is doing. I'm excited about this. So
I am too.
you got the ESA bill, you got
Right.
this bill that I'm gonna say the pay it forward bill, the way to help out all the small communities be able to pay it forward. What other bill are you working on this next session?
Well, my parish, Evangeline Parish that I'm from, we are not an economic development district. We are not formed, and we don't have what St. Landry Parish has. We don't have what Rapides Parish, Ellen Parish has. They're all an economic development political district, and we don't have that. And how long have we been in office here? So I decided to draw legislation up to form that for us. When I know the state puts a lot of money into economic development and growing your parishes. And so now we're going to be open to getting some of those grants and some of that funding to hire directors here to help my small communities grow. The biggest thing I am always talking about is people that are here, like me, my business, we'll just use me for an example. I'm embedded here. I'm invested here. I want to keep people living here and working here, and I want their children to do the same. If I'm going to do that, I need a parish that's going to get behind me. We need directors, or we need people to come in and say, what do you need? I need that gap between me and my businesses and my small rural communities. What do you need? You're invested here. You're rooted here. Let me help you maintain what you have, grow it, and then I'll worry about bringing big business in. But right now, these are the backbone of our small community, and we need that. So that is coming this year. My parish is on board. They're excited. It's been advertised, and we are very excited about that. And then my Polish Bureau got so excited. They said, look, we're going to put some money in for you to hire a director to run this economic development district. So I'm just very excited. It's a good year. It's a good
I
year.
love these are three really good things. And the last one that you talked about so far is bringing cohesiveness and
Yes.
that sense of community through the businesses into the community, and you're backing it up by being able to tell them, hey, look, we're going to be able to improve roads and bridges with this
Yes.
other legislation. This is a great way to bring this all together. I love it. All right,
Right.
so that's three good ones. Are we headed? Because I know you have five. You can do what, five? It's a fiscal
Right.
session. So you can do five. You can have five non-fiscal, but all fiscal. Do you have
Right.
anything else coming up?
Well, I have some local ones. So, we always have some local bills in there. And I have one I'm kind of holding back and I'm not ready to discuss yet.
Okay.
We're still having just discussions. And you know what? I love the fact that my colleagues feel comfortable enough to come to me and say, hey, let me talk to you about that bill. I think maybe because I was about ready to file it, and they're like, hey, they saw me at a meeting, and I said, that's a great idea. And I'm
Right.
so open to their opinions, and I love that about the relationship I have with them. So I'm very excited about that. So we'll be able to talk about it once I get in there. Probably once I drop it, I'll come see you in the hall, in the
Okay.
rotund.
You'll grab me and say, "Hey, I can talk about that bill," and I'm gonna
I
be
dropped
happy to
it.
get it out because
Right.
I know if it's going to be as good as these others that you're talking about that are good for our communities and our state, then it's going to be one that we got to get behind. But I also want to tell you too is I love the fact that you're using facts. You're building a team around this. You're doing this in a way that it puts partisanship aside and just and attempts to bring everybody together on what's best for our community.
That's how I've
Is
been successful here, William. That's how I've been successful. I've always been a team player. Hey, you may not always like what everybody says, but I don't want them to tell me what I want to hear. I want them to tell me what I need to hear. And, I've lived a lot of valleys. I've been here a while, so heard a lot of things. And so I know that you have to be a team player. I cannot do this without a team of people behind me. And there's someone always smarter than you. People need to realize that have some
right.
wonderful ideas that are willing to help you. And if you're open to that, you can be very successful, which you bring here.
And oftentimes the perception of who's the smartest is when, if you can bring smart people to the table, sometimes people think that you're the smartest person, but it's only because you're smart enough to be able to pick smarter people. And
Yeah.
but also have the confidence to be able to know that you're willing to bring them to the table, even if they're going to outshine you, that you brought them to the table. So before I ask you another question, do you have any other legislation that we need to talk about before this next one?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
All right. So what do you think are some of the top problems in our state? Some of the major things wrong with our state that needs to be fixed?
Education, I'm going to say that. I think it's horrible when you are the one of the largest states where your third graders can't read. There is no reason why we cannot fix that. I remember when I went to high school, there had reading math labs and math labs. I don't know if you remember that. Like if
Yeah,
you
I
were
remember that, right?
struggle, right? If
Yeah,
you
exactly.
struggled, they sent them. What they did was they mainstreamed them through math lab. If you were falling behind in math, you got mainstreamed, and then you came back when you caught up, right? And it was kind of like that with reading labs. Why they ever did it was such a simple solution. I
Right.
cannot believe they don't do that today, because you cannot leave a child behind, because the process, the way public schools are, and that's kind of what catches me where I stay upset about that, is not every child progresses the same. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah.
not a cookie cutter situation. You have dyslexic children, you have children that are hyper, you have some that are just don't learn as quickly as other children, and there's nothing wrong with that child. They should have the ability to learn as they go. Well, your public school system is not built that way. Everyone has to move the same way. So then they
Exactly.
now the states and the country wants to take F classes and A classes and make a C class. I don't even know where that is coming from. Just put a program in to mainstream our kids and catch them up and put them back in the program. I don't know. You know why? Because it becomes political. And my
Exactly.
child, I will not put that before my children. I will not do that. There's no way. I just feel like you need to put that behind you, and you need to do what's right for the children in this country. You want our children to have better education, help them. Just give them something simple. Mainstream them where they need to be, get them where they need to be, and let them move it. I am very passionate about Montessori teaching, because I have some grandchildren in a Montessori school, and their teaching is just that way. Whoever they progress as they learn. You would not realize the
Yeah.
scores I have coming out of that school. I wish every school was a Montessori school. I'm just saying, all of them, most of them do really well. So you got my public schools are here, and then you have
Right.
these schools. Come on now, it's you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure that
And
out.
that's one of the good things about your ESA bills is that
Right.
it promotes competition. And if parents are migrating towards one type of school that's putting out, better results and able to help children better, and more people go to that, when the other schools kind of wake up and say, hey, wait a minute, we're going to be out of a job. We're going to be out of work. And the best part about that is you don't have to put restrictions on teachers.
Oh my
Everyone,
goodness.
everyone wants to punish a teacher and say, we're going to put, they have to produce certain results,
Right.
which is a backwards way of doing it, because when a teacher has to produce results, they might be inclined, some, not all, might be inclined to teach in a certain way or grade in a certain way. But when you've got competition, it creates a level playing field, a fair playing field for everybody, because
That's
then
right.
everybody says, hey, we're gonna teach the way we want to teach the child, and if it doesn't work, they can take their student elsewhere. But competition proves that then all the when we raise the water, all ships flow. What's that? When
Yeah.
you raise,
Yes, exactly.
yeah, right. You know what I'm saying.
Raise your standards. Let's raise our standards, Louisiana, because listen, I don't know how you can't get excited about that. I
Right.
don't know how you can't get excited about implementing things like this to help the kids. I don't get that. That will get me fired up more than anything. And I'm going to stand on my post, and I'm going to protect that, because we should give these children. Listen, I have a young man that came to work at our company, and he couldn't read a measuring tape. in his 20s. I just broke down, and my husband took the time and he said, look, it's no big deal. Let me work with you. You got a guy that's 25. He got lost in our system. Is that fair? That maybe
No,
he just didn't learn as quickly? Was it fair
no,
for my nephews? Is it fair for my child? It isn't fair. We should
right.
give them the opportunity to learn. I don't know how many times I have to say, I'm not backing down. You know, I'm not going to back down on
Well, I
this.
know you're a fighter. Look, you're you're
If
you're
it gets
you're.
vetoed, William, I'm coming back to override the veto. I've already let my peers know that. They already know. They already
I
know.
love it. Are
Yeah.
there any other thing problems with Louisiana besides education? We can name them all. I know it's kind of a rhetorical question, but is there anything
Crime,
on your hot
cr-
hot plate? Huh?
crime.
Yeah.
Crime is, and I didn't even mention that, but I did implement the first drug court ever in Evangeline Parish. We didn't have a drug court here. I helped work with our court system, our DA, our judges. They were so on board. We got everything. COVID kicked our back
Right.
ends because it shut down the court system for 2 years. So when we finally get into the court system a year and a half later, they're backed up a year and a half later. So it took me till last year to get this drug court on board the paperwork, because the Supreme Court said, look, we're so backed up, we can't even accept applications. We're done right now. We got to figure this out. So they got tele things in where you could do court online. I mean, it was a big deal. They had to implement all that stuff. And I think what happened to me is one of my good friends invited me to come sit in one of his court, and you got to see it all on TV on this big screen.
Wow.
I went in there, and you couldn't see me, but I could see them. And one young man after another, between the age of 20 and 30, walking up with handcuffs on and sitting in front of me, I wept over that. I had to walk out. And he told me, it's going to upset you, because he knows how I feel about that. And I
Oh,
said, we have to do something. People make mistakes. God forbid if the Lord in
exactly.
heaven wouldn't forgive me for all the things I've done in my life, right? And that I am not a perfect angel, unless not like my husband thinks I am, and I've made him
You
think I
just
am.
keep on letting him think that way.
Right. And so I just broke, and I said, we have to do something. What don't we have here? I asked and that's my thing. I've worked at everybody on my local leadership. That's where my platform was. I'm going to get embedded in that, and we have to fix things. What do we need to fix? And one of his meetings was me, what do we do? So we knew we had to get a drug court, because we had to fix it the first time they got arrested, right? We didn't want them to just do drugs and then go steal or whatever. We just wanted it to be a drug. So we had to catch it. We had to catch it there. And then we had to rehabilitate, because I said, if we don't rehabilitate, we don't make them have an ethics for working, to get a job, to get off of those drugs, to have counseling, well, then we failed. We have to do the whole enchilada, we have to do the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
And he said, we're right. So we implemented that, and we're growing into that. So we are very excited about that. But the breakdown of family homes concerns me.
Mhm.
And I know in this country, in this state, the
Oh, yeah.
fatherless homes, we have grandparents raising these kids. Look, I love my grandchildren. I have 8, and I don't want to raise them. Okay, I don't want. I want
That's
to.
amazing.
I
You
want.
you you've done a great job.
I want to be Mama B. That's all I want to be. I don't want to be. That's what they call me. I don't want to be their mother and their father. They need structure at home with parents. And until we work on fixing these fatherless homes and these parentless homes, and a lot of it's due to drugs. Hey, I'm going to be quite honest. A lot of it's due to incentives that we give them not to be a family.
Well, I actually have. I don't know if you. Well, I'll jokingly say you must have been listening to my show, but I would ask you, please. I just did a show last week on work ethic and how freedom is under attack in our country. We're going to lose freedom. We're going to lose our country if we don't work on the work ethic of our communities. And I
Yes,
did a whole show on this, and I connected work ethic to family, and I
yes,
connected work ethic to the policies of our government, because you're absolutely right. We have a government that in the 60s created regulations that you can't have a father in the home to get help or support. Now we can discuss all day long for weeks and months on what the best way to fix that is, but in the nutshell, very simplistically speaking, when you take a father out of the home to get assistance to get back on for your family to get back on their feet, it does absolutely nothing when you tear the family apart, because when you've got a family, or look, Single parents can teach a work ethic also, but the idea is when you take, but a family helps it even better. You got families working together. When you take work ethic out of the family or out of our communities,
Right.
which also ties opportunity. When you take opportunity out of your community and you lose a sense of work ethic that you need to
Yeah.
have work to be able to survive or be able to progress or prosper or be self-sufficient, you lose that sense of responsibility that your community ends up losing in the long run and the state suffers. So
My father was the role model in our home. I had fear and respect for that. You do something wrong, we're going to talk about it. We're going to have a Jesus meeting, come to Jesus meeting. And, I looked up to him and respected him and loved him. And I wanted to be like that. I wanted
right.
to work hard and accomplish what he did. He was that role model. Fathers are so important in a home. They are so important. Mothers bring up the rear. They're that loving, nurturing, caring, when they get in trouble. And dad is the one that brings it to town. You don't want dad upset. You want to make sure you're doing the right thing. And when we lose that role model, there's no role model. What do they look up to? And listen, people come to me all the time and say, we need to make people pick up trash on the side of the road. I cannot legislate responsibility,
Right.
personal responsibility. I can't. I cannot legislate parenting. So we have got to work with communities and our churches. And I went to our churches. I went to them and said, what do we need to do? What can we do? And they'll tell you, Rhonda, we get them here. We get a lot of youth here. But when they go home to the environment, we're back to where we started. So, I have a novel idea. Why don't we tell them if you work 40 hours a week, we'll give you some incentives. We'll still help you get
Exactly.
to this point, and when you get
Exactly.
way up here, then we have to start chiming down a little bit, but let's give you some incentives
I love
while
it.
you work.
I
I,
love it.
common sense.
Yeah, and even though we talk about fathers, and we also have to consider that there's a lot of single mothers who are or
Right,
single parents, we'll say, that can do a great job for as a parent for both sides, we'll say, for father and
right,
mother. So we're not excluding them in this example because
right,
sometimes divorce happens, but by the
right,
other things that we can do to strengthen the families and the community can solve those problems. But for the fatherless homes, for the regulations that take fathers out of the homes, like
right.
my idea was, if you have a family that's working together, let's say there's a father in the home, you encourage, hey, look,
Yes,
if you have a father in the home, you're going to still be able to get the assistance
that's right.
because then you promote family. And
That's
like
right.
you said, we can work this support system where if you reach certain goals, you're able to still maintain the help. Now we're teaching work ethic. Now we're teaching community. Now we're teaching family. And it's an indirect way to do it. And for the people that say, oh, you're just preaching to people, well, you can say that way, but there's proof when you can say, hey, this has worked in the past, at times when we had this in place in our society.
Hey, we're giving it to them anyway. We're
Yeah,
giving it to them anyway. So
exactly.
what's the difference?
Exactly.
I have
Let's
an
find
example
ways
of
to help.
right. I have an example of a young girl. Her husband got killed in an accident going to work.
That makes the
Okay,
other.
so
Right.
let's go there. Let's not think about, divorce and whatever, that they won't live together because they get this. So he was taken away from that family. She makes $2,200 clear a month. She has 3 children. Okay. That's what she makes. Now you tell me if that's enough money to raise 3 kids, and she
No.
doesn't live in this huge home. She lives very moderate. And she says, they're going to take away my food incentives that I get if I make over this. And I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. So let's give her the incentive to quit and go home. And she doesn't
Right.
want to. She wants to keep her job. It has a little retirement that she can look forward to. She can grow to get $4 or $5 more an hour over the next 2 years. Then she would be where she needs to be, right? And so they want to take that away to incentivize her to quit. I,
Right.
that's the whole problem. That's the problem. I don't believe in that. Let her work. Let her work her way up. She wants to work. She wants to pay taxes. She wants her children to have things. Her standards are higher. And why not incentivize her to stay there and
I
work
love
and quit?
the system could definitely be tweaked to be able
Yeah,
to help inspire people and motivate people to do better, to get back on their feet. That's the thing. The government created these ways to help people
Right.
without also creating a stepping stones or a bridge to get them off the assistance at a later time. It just leaves them at leaves them at the bank of the river with no way to cross the river to get to the other side.
Yeah.
And so you're absolutely right. We agree with regulations. So one last question I always ask everybody in my interviews is, as we wrap it up, which is, I believe that freedom in America is under attack. And I just got back from DC, where I was asking people on a national level what freedoms in America under attack. But let's tie that to Louisiana. We're in Louisiana. You're represented in Louisiana. Where do you think that our freedoms are most under attack in Louisiana? And how can protecting that in Louisiana also help protect it for the state?
What concerns me is I think this our Christian values here. And without that group, I had a very spiritual grandmother. We laugh because my mom was raised very Protestant. My dad's Catholic. And I this is what you get out of that. I'm in the middle. And so, good old Southern Baptist landed in there. But, and I feel like it's under attack all the time. I feel like my grandchildren are asked things that they shouldn't be asked about their faith, and I make them stand strong. Don't you give in to anything. We serve God. That's who we serve in this house. I have the right to do that, and you have the right to do that. If they want to believe something, that's fine. I'm not going to attack their beliefs, but sure, they're not going to attack yours. We're going to stand strong. That concerns me about our faith and our belief system here. And, Louisiana's been strong. We're strong in our faith and our belief here. I think it's going to be a big pushback on that. And they always try to target the children. And
Right.
they incentivize these things, or they add these certain books, or they add certain,
Right.
programs, and the things they do.
Yeah.
And I hit back hard. I don't mince words with it. I don't mince them at the Capitol. I don't mince them in my house. I promise you. And if they're going to come after me, good luck with that in
I love
Louisiana.
it.
Good luck
You
with that in Turkey Creek.
Representative, I gotta tell you, you're amazing. I love your spirit. I love your passion. I love the compassion that you use from your heart to be able to go out and find the numbers and the statistics and the proof to back up what you're passionate about doing. And I appreciate that. And after I wrap this up, I'll talk to you offline, for a few minutes too. But do you have any final words for everybody that's been listening to our podcast?
You know what? I'm excited about seeing my colleagues and the good things they're going to bring. I always instill hope wherever I go. I can't give up. If I didn't have hope, I don't know how people don't have hope. If I didn't serve someone much higher and bigger than me, I'd never have hope. But in my home, we practice hope and positivity every day. So I want people to have hope. You can have hope. You have good things coming. You have good people to represent you. We love this state. I love this country. My husband served in the military, in the submarine service for 11 years. And we are red, white, and blue over here. And, we serve God, and hope is what we need to cling on to. And we got that. We pull up our bootstraps
Yeah.
around here in rural areas. People don't
Oh,
dig
yeah.
us out of trouble, and they don't come save you. And so if we didn't have hope, I don't know how we would do that. So I just want to make sure that we all still understand where that hope comes from, and hang on to it, because you have good things coming. I'm not going to give up, and I don't think that my colleagues will either.
I don't think you're going to give up. I don't even want to say I hope you never give up, because I know you're never going to give up. And I look forward to seeing the great things that you're going to do, Representative. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
I am too. I really appreciate your time. I tell you what, that's my goal is to be able to get as many representatives on, so that way the people of our state can see what we're doing, not just on a state level, but in the individual communities. Because if we work hard within our communities and we support the representatives and the good elected officials that do work hard in our communities, we have a better state as a result.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Hang on one second. Everybody else, please share the video. You'll have it posted it'll be posted on Rumble and YouTube. It will also be made into a podcast, which you can find on all podcast apps, usually with bonus content. Thank y'all so much, and have a great day.